Dream a little dream of me.
Welcome kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch, and I just wanted to give you a little walkthrough of this brand new deck that I've received. I am still on my depth year. I'd ordered this deck, it was for a Kickstarter project, so it has arrived and I haven't really even had a proper look through yet. I've had a quick flick through, so this is going to be this is not a review video, this is just a first impressions video. So it is the Many Queens Tarot deck by Letty Jane. You can find her website is lettyjane.com. When I had my packet, it came with these set of really cool stickers as well, which will be good for my bullet journaling. So that's the website, lettyjane.com. The Kickstarter project was really well managed because some of them aren't, so it's nice that this one was. Hang on, I'm just going to autofocus the camera because it's kind of flicking the light, which is annoying. So yeah, she kept us informed every step of the way. She would let us know, when the cards had finished being designed, when they were sent to the printers, when she received the decks back from the printers, when she was sending them out. So yeah, I feel like it was a well handled campaign, which definitely puts you more in the frame of mind of looking forward to enjoying the deck. So the reason I backed this deck was because I enjoyed the idea of the premise of it, basically, in that it's a kind of woman-centric deck, which is why it's the Many Queens Tarot deck. It's also it's not it's an intersectional deck, I believe, as well. So it comes in a box like this, which is kind of bigger than your average tarot box. I've got Spirit Keepers here to compare with. So, it's slightly larger than your average sized. And I'd say Spirit Keepers is probably a little bit bigger, but not much bigger than usual. So yeah, a little bit bigger. And this kind of black and white box, which is a hint of things to come, with these eyes all over it, a lot of eye motif imagery going on. So I focused the camera as close in as I can because I wanted you to be able to see the cards in as much detail as possible. So there is only this very little white book with it. Many Queens Tarot. The queens represent intuition, receptive energy, and the strength we all have coming from those places. Remember to breathe, trust your feelings, keep going. And a little bit about Letty Jane. So it's got a few ideas for spreads there, and then we've literally got a very small bit of information for each of the cards, and similarly for the minors. So there's not loads of information there. So if this was like your only deck, if you're new to tarot, this would probably not. You would need another book to go with this, but you're unlikely to be buying an indie deck as your first deck anyway. So here are the cards. They did come with like a little like a ribbon seal around them, which I took off because I had a little look through. So there's the bottom of the box. Nothing too bonkers about the box, but it does feel quite sturdy and well made, so I think it will last. So the cards are quite big. Again, let me see if I can grab there's Joie de Vivre against it, so you can see they're almost more towards the oracle. They're wider as well as a little bit longer, so a bit kind of a fatter rectangle than your average. So there we have the Fool. And it is a Rider-Waite-Smith base system. I could see that. I haven't seen all of the images. I have now because I looked through the deck when I first received it, but I hadn't seen them all when I backed the deck. But I'd seen quite a lot of the images, and it was clear that they were going to be based on Rider-Waite. We've got the dog there, we've got the staff, with the potentially the elements all in here, and a rose, okay, and following the sun, stepping off into the unknown. Even though the cliff is not there, you do get that. You get the idea. All of the cards are black and white, which I'm quite liking at the moment, although I think I may have gone a little bit overboard because I do seem to have a few now of like black and white decks. So if I don't end up working lots with them, I think perhaps I will streamline that part. And then the Magician. I'm liking the way that they've got tattoos on their bodies. You can probably hear the kids downstairs. Apologies for that. My husband is down there keeping an eye on them, so hopefully they should be okay for just a little while as we look through these cards. So again, you know, a lot of the traditional imagery is there. The numbers are on the cards as well, which I like. So that is cool. Yeah, interesting. So he's got the wand, sword. Yeah, one hand up, one hand down. Yeah, so, you know, you can read these in a traditional way. Oh, that's weird. Wheel of Fortune is there. Ah, okay. That's odd. I didn't notice. Maybe I did. Maybe I just shuffle. Perhaps I did shuffle very briefly. It's really hard not to. So the cardstock is not super thick, but I quite like that. It's not as thin as the more recent Llewellyn decks, which I know people hate, but I do quite like those as well. But it feels good, and it's like not laminated so that they all kind of stick together, but it feels kind of glossy, so they do kind of nicely slide over each other. They're the backs as well, so we've got that eye motif again on the backs. So Wheel of Fortune, Justice. So that's weird, so we've like skipped out a load of cards, so hopefully they are still here. Oh well, yeah, there's Hangman, so we're going in order now. So hopefully there's just a bunch of those somewhere else in the deck, which we will find. I didn't notice that when I was looking through, but like I said, perhaps I shuffled. I might have done. Look at Justice's hairy legs, that's hilarious. Oh, look at the eye on the edge of the sword. That's an interesting idea. But then still with the scales. Yeah, the kind of hand motif as well. These are interesting cards. There's the Hanged Man. Although that man has rather large breasts, which are hanging upside down. And again, you know, we've got the tattoo kind of imagery, the body art as part of this. That's interesting. You don't often see the Death card looking straight forward, so that's quite an interesting take on the Death card. And I quite like that third eye on Death too. Yeah, interesting. So they are kind of like twists on the kind of more traditional imagery. So if you are aware of the traditional imagery, one dry foot, one wet foot, you know, mixing the elemental energies, it won't be that's an interesting one as well. There is no safety, only trust. Wow, that is a cool devil card. That is a really cool devil card. We have the Tower, which looks kind of like a corporate office almost, so they've got the crown, because obviously it is Queens, and that was one of the reasons why I was drawn to it as well, is that my word of the year this year is sovereign, and so I am working with kings and queens and other kind of sovereign images, emperor, empress, as well as those kind of archetypes this year. So I thought this deck may be interesting from that point of view. It is kind of slightly more, it's like it's certainly not a traditional take on the tarot, but then again, you know, there's a lot of the traditional symbolism is here as well, like I said, so you know, you can, it does have that woven into it. That's interesting. Look, with the one eye open, one eye closed of the moon, that kind of unconscious conscious dichotomy that you get with the moon. Oh, and the sun, and it's not a scary baby, so that is always nice to see. There we go, there's the High Priestess. So I know I've seen that card before, so I must have like just weirdly, maybe I cut it. Yeah, I'm loving the kind of pubic regions of these as well. They are looking cool. And again, you know, she is foot on the crescent moon. A lot of the symbolism you'd expect, and the figures, the way the figures are, their bodies are similar in lots of ways as well. Although that one is not, with Judgment sitting like that, kind of all squished up. That's an interesting Judgment card. I need to look at what they say in the book for that. I love that World card. That was one that I saw and enjoyed as well. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. The different animals. You know, again, recognisable and yet totally different. Which is cool. There's the Empress. massive, massive areola. And then, yeah, one massive breast and one small breast. And these bodies are interesting in that as well, you know, in that they're not perfectly aesthetically beauty industry formed bodies. They are more, both kind of more and less realistic than that, you know. Got the kind of the rams there, that Aries and Capricorn energy. Hierophant. So that looks more like a drag queen in that one. And that's why, you know, it definitely plays around with gender stereotypes and things in this deck as well, which I find cool, which was one of the things I liked about it. And yet, you know, we've still got the cross keys, we've got the symbols kind of woven into different places on these cards. Whoa, look at that, lovers. They're almost like connected in a loop. Like in a... Whoa, that is weird. And rather than having the devil, you know, it is the angel linking in with that devil card that we saw. I won't flick back through, I probably won't be able to find it. That is one thing I do find about the black and white decks, is it makes it more tricky to flick through and find the card you want, because without realising it, quite a lot of the time I use my colour, you know, like memory of the colours of the cards, if you're quickly flicking through to find a card. And so that is trickier when you're just using the black and white. But sometimes I find the black and white is good for like kind of journeying and stuff like that, for path working with the cards, because somehow you can kind of blur into that a little bit better. So yeah, pros and cons. That's interesting that she's got her eyes closed in the Strength card, and the Lion has eyes closed. The Hermit. And there's the Minors now, so we've got Ace of Cups. Oh, and these are going to be out of order as well. I obviously have shuffled, so I do apologise. I should have checked that out first. Look at that Ten of Cups. That is definitely not, you know, even though it's a kind of family, it's a definitely a non-traditional family unit there. I like that Page of Cups. That horse is very cracking me up. Kind of looking a little bit shifty, like, what are you looking at now? I'm not sure about that Queen of Cups. It's weird how they're kind of almost like looking towards and away. Their faces are interesting. So yeah, like I haven't done a reading at all with this deck yet, so I'll have to see how I feel with it when I do start reading with it. I love that Three of Cups. That is really cool. And like they've formed the vessel with their bodies as well. That's nice. I like it. Yeah. And the kind of snake and fish imagery on these cards is cool as well for these cup cards. Yeah. It's funny, I find sometimes with quite a few of the indie decks, or even just with more kind of the decks coming out more recently in general, is that the minors are often a little bit more interesting than the majors. It's almost like they feel like they can have a bit more of a free reign with the minors. So even though, you know, you have the imagery that you would expect, they are not as kind of sticking with the, look at that one sideways. That might get on my nerves. Interesting. Although I like how they kind of all fitting into these little vases. That's an interesting take on the Six of Cups. I see that, yeah, and it kind of has been like an inner child sort of card, so a kind of playfulness about it. And I suppose the fact that the card doesn't fit in with the rest of them adds that kind of playful aspect of it as well. So yeah, I didn't notice that when I was looking through them before. The 7. Yeah, we want to pick some of those choices. And an 8, leaving it all behind, off to pastures new. The sun doesn't look so sure about it though, does it? A 9 of Cups, kind of fulfillment. And we saw the 10 because that was back there. And then Ace of Pentacles, and the Pentacles are kind of like these jewels in this deck. Got lots of this eye imagery again. And then there's a 10. So yeah, I don't think I kind of shuffled them out like this. I think they must have just not been quite in the right order. Yeah, that's an interesting 10 of pence, isn't it? All kind of grooming the page. This almost looks like kind of combative posture. It's a weird choice of posture for the page. And then the knight again is like staring at the, look at the pentacle horse. It's like very fancy, Shire horsey looking. The queen. Yeah, I like that. And the kings. The kings are quite funny, aren't they? The couple of kings we've seen, they almost look kind of almost asleep. I guess at the kind of completion of the cycle, they're kind of ready, almost moving on to the next energy of that cycle. And the 2, she doesn't look so happy about that juggling, does she? Normally I see the 2 of Pentacles as being not, you know, like a super happy card, but more a kind of possibility card. 3 of Pence, yeah. 4. Well, that's very kind of closed in posture, holding on to that diamond. That's interesting. Yeah. The 5. Yeah, so that one doesn't, that, you know, like that one is the traditional meaning. This one doesn't look quite so much like that, because that can be more, she doesn't look all that worried really, even though she clearly has stuff on her mind. 6. Looks like a kind of, yeah, somebody doling out things like you would expect in the 6, but she doesn't look so open to receive it perhaps. 7, yeah, working at growing those pence. 8, yeah, I like that. 9, so yeah, you can see the progression from 8 to 9 there, with that growing a whole, you know, a whole load more stuff. Potentially, I think as well, like that card, it would be quite good reading for almost like responsibility for other people as well, you know. It's like this is the start of it, and then boom, you know, you're now growing all these and you're also responsible for all these. It carries that responsibility as well as the cultivation kind of aspect of it, which is interesting. That's a cool take on that card. Ace of Swords. So the aces haven't really blown me away as yet. And there's the 10, which is, you know, brutal as they tend to be. I want like naked apart from the legs as well, which is sad. I like the owls in here. Oh look, and there we go. Knight of Swords is also sideways, thinking outside the box, rushing out of there with that shadow that looks kind of slightly not quite what it should be. That's interesting, seeing things from a different perspective. It's a clever use of the cards, but I don't know if it will bug me when I suppose you won't know from the backs, so it's only when you're doing the readings. And I guess the directionality of the card might be interesting in readings as well. Queen of Swords. See, she doesn't look all that happy either, does she? She almost looks like she's cutting her hand on her own sword as well. And the king with his slightly froggy feet. And he also looks like he's cutting his hand on his sword. There's the 2 choices with the moon, as you would like to see. Oh, that's a nice 3 of Swords. With the kind of, it almost looks more like sap than blood coming out. Interesting. And the serpent around it all. 4. 5. Yeah, I quite like that. It's like, I'm gonna have a little fight, but they don't even know anything about it. They're just off having a nose. Something else. That adds another possibility of meaning to that card. Six of Swords. So kind of setting off on that journey rather than across the water as you would expect. It's like up the stairs to the moon. 7. She looks quite happy. She thinks she's getting away with that, doesn't she? She's getting away with stealing those swords, although she's looking back like they do often in that card. Doesn't seem to have noticed so much that she's dropped a couple. And then the 8. Oh look, and she's not even really trapped in by the swords. It is kind of serpents that are tying her in. And then the 9. Yeah, I quite like that actually, with that kind of dark and light, because 9 of Swords is like that. It can be a really heavy and dark card, but I like to be able to read the sword suit in a lighter, airier way, as I feel like we should be able to. And then we have Ace of Wands, and most likely, yeah, so 10 of Wands. So for some reason it's out of order like that. I should have noticed that when I was looking through. I did just only have a brief flick when I was looking through it before. That 10 of Wands almost looks more like positive, doesn't it, than you would expect normally. It's normally like I'm struggling big time with this, but it almost looks like I'm juggling these, which is kind of, yeah, more positive. It's weird how some of them are like a more positive spin on them and some of them look more negative, especially like the Courts, which you'd think in a deck called Many Queens, they would be more, the Courts would be more kind of positive, maybe? I don't know. Perhaps I shouldn't have expected that. I like that Page of Wands. Knight of Wands. He looks like he means, or she means trouble. The Queen of Wands, she's a badass. Yeah. And the King. Yeah, the Kings all kind of look a bit weedy compared to the Queens, don't they? That makes me think of, and I suppose that can be a reading of that card, like when you're setting off an adventure but you're not quite ready, and it makes me think of those dreams, like when you have those insecurity dreams where you like turn up at school and you're not wearing any bottom half. That totally looks like that. And 3 of Wands. I like that. And there's a lot of people on these cards, isn't there? That's just made me realise so much that, yeah, they're very people-centric, which I don't always really like in a deck, to be honest. So it'd be interesting to see how I get on with this. It reminds me of Dark Days a bit in that respect, in that there is a lot of people on those decks as well. So yeah, 5. Although they almost look more like they're dancing than they're fighting. Almost looks a little bit orgy-ish gone wrong. 6 of Wands. 7. The texture on their bodies, and it does crack me up. And look, even a person on the 8 of Wands, which you rarely get. So that's interesting, although it is like a turned head, but all those wands shooting off, I guess, which is what you would expect. And then the 9 of Wands. Things on the horizon, not quite there yet, sort of vibe. Yeah, so that was the Many Queens Tarot. I hope you've enjoyed having a little look through it with me. Like, obviously I haven't used this deck at all yet. I've just had a quick flick through, and now we've had a slightly longer flick through. And I like some of the images, but some of them not so much. And I like the kind of quirkiness of it, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on with reading with it a bit more. It's also big, and it probably did explain that in the Kickstarter, but actually shuffle's okay. I can kind of long way shuffle it, and it does feel like, because it is kind of, yeah, it's going to riffle shuffle fine as well, because it's not too stiff. Yeah, so I haven't really left myself enough room to do that. But yeah, it's it's probably a candidate for getting edged as well, because it has got this kind of like slightly weird printing on the edges. Yeah, I wonder why that is like that. That's strange, isn't it? But it feels really nice, and I liked the ethos and the idea behind it, which was why I went for it. So you may like it, you may not. Let me know in the comments. And I may like it, I may not. I will let you know in a follow-up video, probably in a few months, when I've had a chance to use it a bit more and see how I feel about it then. So yeah, that was the Many Queens Tarot. Thank you so much for watching. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.